Sofia Ricci never planned to fall in love in a small village nestled among Korea's rolling hills. At 20, with her art history degree still fresh in her hands, the vibrant young Italian woman had simply wanted to experience the culture she'd fallen in love with through films, music, and countless hours spent learning Korean vocabulary in her Rome apartment. "You're obsessed," her friends had teased when she announced her plan to volunteer in rural Korea. "Just go to Seoul for vacation like a normal person." But Sophia wasn't interested in normal. Ever since discovering Korean historical dramas during a lonely semester abroad, she'd been captivated not just by the modern K-pop that had swept across Europe, but by the deeper cultural traditions that shaped Korean society. The way families connected across generations, the reverence for elders, the harmony with nature that seemed increasingly distant in her busy Roman life. When she found the Rural Cultural Exchange program online, it felt like fate. Teach Italian to villagers in traditional farming communities while experiencing authentic Korean rural life, the listing had promised. Within weeks, Sophia had sent her application, passed her interview, and found herself on a flight to Incheon, her mother's worried voice still echoing in her ears. 6 months is a long time, Kara. Please call often. The drive from Seoul to Hanam County took nearly 5 hours, the landscape gradually transforming from crowded urban sprawl to terraced rice fields and mist-covered mountains. When they finally arrived at Sunflower Village, Sophia's heart raced as she took in the cluster of traditional homes with their elegant curved roofs, smoke rising gently from several chimneys despite the mild spring weather. "This is where you'll be staying," her coordinator explained, leading her to a small but tidy guest house at the edge of the village. "The community center is just down that path. You'll start teaching tomorrow. Most of your students will be older residents who are curious about Western culture." Sophia nodded, suddenly feeling very far from home. That night, lying on her thin mattress beneath an unfamiliar quilt, she wondered if she'd made a terrible mistake. The silence was overwhelming after a lifetime in noisy Rome. The next morning, Sophia arrived at the community center early, arranging her modest Italian teaching materials on a worn wooden table. Her hands trembled slightly. Her Korean was functional but still hesitant, and she worried about making a fool of herself. One by one, her students arrived, mostly women in their 60s and 70s, their faces weathered by decades of farm work, their eyes bright with curiosity. 2 younger men in their 30s nodded politely. And then, just as Sophia was about to begin, the door slid open once more. He entered quietly, giving a slight bow to the room before taking a seat in the back corner. Unlike the others who whispered and smiled among themselves, he sat straight and serious, his weathered hands resting on the table. Sophia guessed he was in his early 60s, his silver-streaked hair cropped short, his sun-darkened face marked with deep lines around penetrating eyes. "Annyeonghaseyo," Sophia began, bowing slightly. "My name is Sofia Ricci. I am from Italy, and I am very happy to meet you all." As she spoke, she couldn't help noticing how the quiet man in the corner watched her, not with the indulgent smiles of the others, but with careful attention, as if weighing every word. In the days that followed, Sophia learned that the quiet man was Min-ho Kim, a respected farmer who had lived his entire life in Sunflower Village. Unlike many others who readily engaged in conversation, asking about Italian food or showing Sophia photographs of their grandchildren, Min-ho spoke little, offering only brief answers when directly addressed. "Don't mind him," one of the village women told Sophia. "Since his wife passed 5 years ago, he keeps to himself. He never misses a community event, always the first to help when someone needs it." Despite his reserve, Min-ho proved to be one of Sophia's most dedicated students. While others attended sporadically, he never missed a class, arriving early and often staying afterward to practice pronunciation. One evening, as Sophia was gathering her materials, he approached her desk and carefully placed a small paper bag before her. "Sangwacha," he said simply. "Good for energy." Sophia peeked inside to find a package of traditional Korean herbal tea. "Kamsahamnida," she thanked him, touched by the unexpected gesture. He nodded once, then turned to leave. "Mr. Kim," she called after him impulsively. "Why are you learning Italian?" Min-ho paused in the doorway, considering her question. "My daughter," he finally answered. "She studies fashion in Milan. 2 years now." With another slight bow, he was gone, leaving Sofia to wonder about this unexpected connection. As spring blossomed into summer, Sofia settled into village life. She taught her classes, helped in the community garden, and gradually improved her Korean through daily conversations with villagers. On weekends, she explored nearby hiking trails, often encountering Minho working in his fields, where he grew organic vegetables using traditional methods. One Saturday, caught in a sudden downpour while hiking, Sofia took shelter beneath a small wooden pavilion overlooking the valley. To her surprise, Minho was already there, sitting cross-legged on the wooden floor while sketching in a small notebook. "I'm sorry to disturb you," Sofia said in Korean, hesitating at the entrance. Minho looked up, then gestured to the empty space beside him. "Rain will pass soon." Grateful for the shelter, Sofia sat down, careful to maintain a respectful distance. For several minutes, they watched the rain in companionable silence. Then, curiosity getting the better of her, Sofia glanced at Minho's notebook. To her surprise, it contained not farming notes, but detailed botanical drawings, delicate renderings of local plants with their names written in Korean characters. "These are beautiful," she said sincerely. Minho seemed embarrassed, but pleased. "Old hobby. Not important." He shrugged, but Sofia noticed the slight softening around his eyes. As the rain continued, she found herself telling him about her studies in Rome, her fascination with Korean culture, her dreams of perhaps becoming a translator someday. Minho listened attentively, offering brief comments or questions that revealed a sharp intellect behind his reserved demeanor. When the rain finally stopped, they walked back to the village together. Though they spoke little, Sofia felt a subtle shift in their relationship. Not quite friendship yet, but a mutual recognition, a crack in the barrier of age and culture that separated them. The following week, Minho was absent from class. When Sofia inquired, she learned he had traveled to Seoul to visit his daughter, who was briefly home from Italy. Upon his return, he presented Sofia with a small gift, a high-quality Italian coffee that must have cost him dearly. "My daughter says this is good," he explained. "She says Italians cannot live without proper coffee." Sofia laughed. "Your daughter knows us well." From that day forward, a quiet rhythm developed between them. Sofia would sometimes help Minho in his fields, learning about traditional Korean farming methods. In return, he showed her hidden spots in the surrounding countryside, a waterfall concealed in a bamboo grove, an ancient stone Buddha weathered by centuries, a hillside that blazed with autumn wildflowers. During these excursions, Minho gradually shared pieces of his life. How he had inherited his farm from his father but had introduced organic methods against the advice of neighbors. How his wife had supported his vision until cancer took her too young. How proud he was of his daughter for pursuing her dreams, even when it took her halfway across the world. Sofia found herself drawn to his quiet strength, his deep connection to the land, his unexpected moments of gentle humor. She began to look forward to their encounters with an eagerness that surprised her. When her parents called from Rome, she spoke animatedly about village life, but found herself hesitating to mention Minho too specifically, unsure how to explain their growing friendship. One evening in early autumn, Sofia was returning from a neighboring village when she encountered a group of stray dogs on the path. Usually harmless, the animals seemed agitated, circling and growling as Sofia froze in fear. Just as the largest dog lunged forward, a commanding voice cut through the air. Minho appeared from the adjoining field, brandishing a walking stick and shouting at the dogs until they retreated. "Are you hurt?" he asked, his usual composure replaced by urgent concern. "No, I'm fine," Sofia assured him, though her voice trembled. "You arrived just in time." Minho insisted on walking her all the way to her door. As they reached her small guest house, Sofia, still shaken by the encounter, impulsively invited him in for tea. To her surprise, he accepted. Sitting across from each other at her small table, something shifted in the air between them. Perhaps it was the intimate setting, or the lingering adrenaline from the encounter with the dogs, but Sofia found herself speaking from the heart. "I never expected to feel so at home here," she admitted. "Everyone has been kind, but especially you, Mr. Kim. You've shown me a Korea I couldn't have discovered on my own." Minho looked down at his tea. "You bring freshness to our village. New ideas. My daughter, she's like you, brave to go far from home. But I'm not brave like her, Sofia said softly. I'm only here for a few months. Your daughter is building a life in a foreign country. Minho was quiet for a moment. Time is not what matters. It is what we see, what we learn. He looked up, meeting her eyes directly. You see Korea with open heart. This is valuable. In that moment, something unspoken passed between them, a recognition of mutual respect that transcended their differences in age and background. When Minho left that evening, Sofia felt a strange mixture of contentment and longing she couldn't quite name. As her 6-month stay approached its halfway point, Sofia realized with a jolt that she dreaded leaving. The village had woven itself into her heart, the rhythm of daily life, the kindness of the people, the beauty of the landscape, and, increasingly, the presence of Minho in her world. She tried to dismiss her feelings as a passing infatuation, perhaps even a cultural fascination. After all, what future could possibly exist between a 20-year-old Italian art student and a 60-year-old Korean farmer? Their worlds were separated by not just distance, but by 4 decades of life experience. Yet when they were together, planting seedlings side by side, or sitting in comfortable silence as the sun set over the mountains, those differences seemed to fade away. In Minho, Sofia found a wisdom and steadiness that none of the young men she'd dated in Rome had possessed. He listened when she spoke, valuing her thoughts in a way that made her feel truly seen. The turning point came during the village's Autumn Harvest Festival. After a day of community celebration, with traditional music and dancing, Sofia found herself sitting beside Minho at the edge of the festivities, watching as younger villagers continued the celebration under lantern light. In Italy, Sofia said thoughtfully, we have a saying, il cuor non invecchia mai, the heart never grows old. Minho considered this. Wise words. My grandmother told me that when I was little. I didn't understand then. Sofia turned to look at him directly. I think I'm beginning to understand now. Minho's expression remained calm, but something flickered in his eyes. Sofia, see, I'm too old for such thoughts. Are you? She challenged gently. Or are you just afraid, like I am? Minho looked away, watching the dancers. What I feel, it is not right. You are young, beautiful. Your life is just beginning. Mine is. He gestured vaguely. Your life is rich and full, Sofia finished for him. And if you think I haven't seen how you look at me sometimes, you're not as observant as I thought. A rare smile touched Minho's lips. Perhaps, but the village will talk no matter what we do, Sofia said. Shouldn't we at least be honest with ourselves? In the lantern light, Minho's face showed a conflict of emotions, longing, concern, and something that looked remarkably like hope. Slowly, he reached out and gently covered her hand with his own weathered one. In Korea, we say Jeonseongjian, fate brings people together across lifetimes. Perhaps this is true for us. The weeks that followed were both wonderful and difficult. Sofia and Minho navigated their deepening relationship carefully, mindful of village sensibilities. They continued to meet for walks and farming lessons, but now there were stolen moments of tenderness, fingers intertwined while resting on a hillside, a gentle touch to the small of her back as he guided her across a stream. As expected, whispers began to circulate. Some villagers frowned at what they perceived as an inappropriate match. Others, particularly those who had known Minho for decades and seen his loneliness after his wife's death, watched with cautious approval. Minho's daughter, Sumin, visiting from Milan during a university break, was initially shocked to discover her father's relationship with a woman barely older than herself. Yet, after spending time with Sofia, witnessing her genuine respect for Korean culture and her affection for Minho, Sumin offered her careful blessing. My father has been alone too long, she told Sofia over tea. I worry about the difficulties you'll face, but I cannot deny that you bring light back to his eyes. As Sofia's scheduled departure approached, the unspoken question loomed between them. One evening, sitting together on the porch of Minho's traditional home, Sofia finally voiced it. I don't want to leave, she said simply. Minho sighed, running a hand through his silver-streaked hair. And I don't want you to go. But Sofia, your studies, your family, your life is in Italy. My studies can be completed anywhere. There are universities in Seoul. And what of our age? In 20 years, I will be an old man. Sofia took his hand, tracing the calluses earned from decades of working the land. In 20 years, I will still love the man who showed me what it means to live with purpose and integrity. Minho's eyes shone with emotion. You cannot know this. I know my heart, Sofia said firmly. And yes, there will be challenges. But isn't love always a risk? Isn't anything worthwhile? In the end, Sofia returned to Italy as scheduled, but only to complete her semester, explain her decision to her bewildered but ultimately supportive family, and apply to continue her studies at a university in Seoul. 6 months later, she returned to Korea, not as a temporary volunteer, but as a woman choosing her future. The village adjusted to their relationship gradually. When Sofia and Minho married in a ceremony that blended Korean and Italian traditions, most of the community attended, along with Sofia's parents and brother who had flown in from Rome. Soon served as translator between the families, bridging cultures just as Sofia and Minho had bridged their differences. Life settled into a new pattern. Sofia continued her studies while helping on the farm and teaching Italian to a growing number of students. Minho, energized by Sofia's presence, expanded his organic farming operation and began teaching traditional agricultural methods to younger farmers interested in sustainable practices. When their first child was born a year later, followed by twins 2 years after that, the remaining skeptics in the village finally softened. There was something undeniably right about the family they had created, a blend of cultures and traditions that enriched rather than diminished each. On summer evenings, neighbors would often pass by to find Minho sitting on his porch, teaching their children to draw the plants and animals of the region, while Sofia prepared a dinner that combined Korean and Italian flavors. Their home became a gathering place, a symbol of how differences could complement rather than divide. Sofia sometimes thought about that first day in the village, how lost and uncertain she had felt. Who could have imagined that in this remote corner of Korea, she would find not just a cultural experience, but her heart's home? That the quiet farmer who had watched her so carefully would become the center of her world. When visitors inevitably commented on their age difference or unconventional story, Sofia would simply smile and quote her grandmother, Il cuor non invecchia mai. The heart never grows old. And Minho, his eyes crinkling with the smile that now came easily, would add in his still accented Italian, L'amor trova sempre una strada. Love always finds a way.